How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today, if you're thinking about moving to Denver, Colorado, certainly you have asked yourself, what is it like to actually live there? Well, we're going to dive into that very topic, and we're starting right now. Alright, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everetts, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to the Denver Metro and Colorado Front Range, this is definitely going to be the channel for you. And as much as I try to be a little creative and informative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the state's most talented realtors. And we're helping people like you move here each and every day. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person, answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is moving to Denver. What is living in Denver, Colorado actually like? So the reason this video came about is obviously I'm asked on a pretty consistent basis what it's like to live here, but I really started to think about what was my experience coming back to Denver, even though I had lived here as a kid. What was my experience when I moved to different cities around this country, including New York, including Cleveland, including Pearl Harbor, Honolulu, Hawaii? If I were to ask people what it's like to live there, how would that have prepared me to make that move? So the idea today is to give you some genuine boots on the ground experiences from myself, from clients who have moved here, from friends, colleagues, etc. And we're going to take this in three kind of quick phases. One, give you an overview of Denver and really how it applies to you. Not just stuff you can Google, but what it means to you. Second, we're going to talk about, honestly, reasons why I live here and plan to for the foreseeable future, as well as, again, some of my colleagues who I asked these very questions to. And then we're going to wrap with three quick examples of developments in Denver proper, although there are developments all throughout the metropolitan area. But these three examples are reasons why I feel like Denver's best days are ahead of it rather than behind it, as some headlines might tell you. So the first thing you need to understand about Denver is that when you simply Google the city and you see it has a population of 720,000 people, that's not a whole lot. That's not a massive city. But Denver's metropolitan area has about 3.2 million. And yes, the metropolitan area itself is growing while Denver proper has shrunk over the last couple years. And the growth here has been fast, although it's stabilized. I mean, when you look at Denver in 2008, 2009, and no, the housing crash didn't have really anything to do with that, but Denver was still, as I often lovingly call it, a cow town. It was the type of town where you could leave downtown and within 10 minutes, you would see a farm of some sort. Usually horses, not cows, but I digress. Now, you get into the 2010s, really around 2012, 13, 14, Denver starts to gain momentum. It grows quickly. So it has evolved into a mid-major city. Is it an LA, a Chicago, a New York, a Miami? Certainly not. Is it very comparable to lifestyles in an Austin, a Nashville, a Seattle? Very often it is compared to Charlotte. Yes, it is one of those cities. So surface level stuff. Your job market here is quite diverse compared to what it was 10 or 15 years ago. We used to really rely on oil and gas for a lot of our high-paying jobs. Now you have a lot of finance, tech, healthcare, and educational companies who have moved here or already here. Certainly oil and gas still plays a role in Colorado, maybe not necessarily as large a part in the heart of Denver. But the great thing about our economy here in Denver is genuinely how diverse it is. Now, you'll always hear that competition for the highest paying jobs is going to be high. I don't know of a city, and certainly as I talk to people who are moving here, who found a large city where high-paying jobs were not competitive. If those exist, by all means let me know. I might start a channel there and encourage people to move to that city. Now when it comes to housing, and you hear all of these figures, median home prices, average home price in Denver sit around $575,000 to $600,000. The appreciation has been out of control. All true up until about the summer of 2022, getting into 2023. The nice thing that we have seen in Denver is that while appreciation has really challenged affordability, and make no mistake, Denver is a relatively speaking expensive place to live, higher than the national average by far, home prices and rent prices have stabilized. When you look at homes and the prices they were at the tail end of 2022 and the tail end, or I should say the beginning of 2023, those prices are very similar with the exception of certain hot spots. Same thing with rents. Rents were on fire in 2021 going into 22. They have to some extent stabilized. Are they the cheapest place? Of course not. Denver is a very desirable city. Affordability is going to be a challenge, but to see that stability that we have now, to see that some of these prices are coming down has certainly helped the community at large. All right, so let's talk through one of the biggest or perhaps poorest headlines that Denver gets right now, and that is related to crime. And this is throughout the metro area. Now, in any city, obviously, you're going to have certain areas that have higher crime rates than others. I always say you're going to want to do your due diligence on crime as well as schools. Two areas that are really hard to just say broad stroke, this is safe, this is not, this is a good school, this is not. When it comes to crime, if you look at headlines, you're going to see that crimes have been increasing for years in Denver and have since retracted. We're making improvement, but we're not in the best place. Violent crime is still above the national average. You will still see and hear a lot of news of car thefts, overall thefts, breaking and entering, a lot of porch thefts. You will see that on next door apps at all times in certain areas. Now, are there areas where you are probably going to be a little more aware of your surroundings? Absolutely. You will typically see is that the more populated an area, the more densely populated it is, the higher the crime rates are. But you'll also hear of the reputations of Denver. What I can stress to you is this: do not take the reputation as, again, a blanket. For example, the city of Aurora to the east of Denver tends to have a reputation as though it's not a good place to visit, as though it's not a good place to live. However, Aurora is a massive suburb. It geographically is larger than Denver, stretches north of the city, down south, and there are countless areas of Aurora that are very much desired areas for people to live, and there's some great things for people to do there. Now, there are areas you're gonna hear about Colfax as a perfect example. Both West Colfax, which comes through Lakewood, the town I live in, and East Colfax that goes through Denver and then through Aurora. There are stretches of Colfax that have some of the best restaurants, some of the best concert halls, some of the best things to do in this town, and yet there are very much parts of Colfax, both West and East Colfax, that you're not going to want to hang around, and you're certainly not going to want to hang around when you can't see a great distance, aka at night. At the same time as you might hear about these crimes, when we talk about living in the suburbs, when we talk about living in certain areas, there are areas of Denver, and certainly as you get into suburbs such as Littleton, Highlands Ranch, Parker, where the number one piece of feedback I get, if it's not number one, it's certainly number two, is safe, is the idea that they feel good in their community, that they feel confident around their surroundings. Moving on to a couple other common questions. Denver is becoming more diverse as time passes. Currently, as of the most recent census, I should say, it is 53% white, 30% Hispanic, 10% black, 4% Asian, and 3% of the population state that they are two or more races. So certainly not the same level of diversity that you might see in a New York or a Los Angeles, but certainly making progress in that area. And just to make sure I piss people off in this video, let's talk about politics, because why wouldn't we? So ahead of time, Denver and the metro area tends to lean very blue. This was once a red state, turned purple. We're pretty blue right now. Now, for those of you who are absolutely cheering about that, don't cheer too much. And for those of you who are absolutely hating it, again, don't hate it too much. Here is the thing that I am noticing about the Denver metro area. Certainly you will have different suburbs and different counties that are a bit more or lean conservative. Within Denver, I feel like there was a pendulum swing where it went really blue, went really liberal, and especially during COVID, they let certain things get out of control. That included letting the homeless situation rise. We had tent cities everywhere. We had the city got disgusting for a minute there. Over the last couple years, we had a massive amount of migrants move into Denver. And this was a tricky situation, and I'm not taking sides. As someone who is married to an immigrant, I will tell you, Denver had a tough situation, and its metro areas had a tough situation housing thousands of people who were moving here. Certainly some really bad headlines. Check out one out of Aurora. Was not good and not necessarily the most accurate headline either. Regardless, you're gonna hear a lot of conversations about this. One thing I can say definitively is that the city is making progress as far as its crime rates, and it's making progress as far as its homeless situation. Does it have a long ways to go? Yes, it does. But I, for one, and certainly some of the people I talked to preparing for this video, feel as though we're going in the right direction. And hopefully that progress continues. And since we hit the height, let's talk about some easier stuff. Weather. Yes, you're going to hear a lot about it. Certainly weather here in Denver and the metro area, one of the things that I love most about it is that there's never an extreme. Like our summers, they get warm. We get into the high 80s, we get into the low 90s. You'll hear it's a dry heat, but it's never, oh my God, hot. At the same time, yes, it gets cold. Yes, we get some snow. We might get one snowstorm a year. That's a big one. And we might get one cold snap where it's 3 or 4 days where it's around 0. But for the most part, our winters are pretty mild. You know, we'll get in the 30s and 40s. Our summers never get too hot, and we actually get all the seasons. Spring is really enjoyable. Not too wet, doesn't rain for weeks on end. And fall, same thing. Fall is probably the best season to enjoy the Denver metro area, maybe Colorado for that matter, because you get those great 70-degree days. We don't get a ton of clouds like you might in the Midwest. It's just the type of place where you want to get outside. And travel, a huge question. First and foremost, you have access to Denver International Airport. So you're pretty centrally located in the United States to begin with. You've got a great airport that has flights going just about anywhere. It is very easy to get to other cities, other countries, leaving Denver, many of those flights being direct. And then as far as traffic, manageable. When I talk to people who are moving here from, your big cities of a New York, a Chicago, they think the traffic here is a joke. Even coming from cities like Washington, D.C. and Seattle. I think the people who tend to be blown away by traffic here in Denver are either people who have lived in Denver for a very long time, so they remember what traffic used to be like, which was still bad. We still have traffic jams. Or they are moving from really small towns. And again, you're just getting used to the fact that there are more cars because more people live here. Public transportation is okay in Denver. It's ish. We got a decent busing system. You've got cabs and Uber. You've got a light rail system that is useful if you live near it, but it's not that major, transportation situation that, again, these major cities of Chicago and New York and LA will have. I know I keep mentioning those 3 cities as though those are the only ones that people are moving here from, but I don't think you would ask me about the transportation situation coming from, Tuscaloosa. So why do I love living here? Why do people enjoy Denver? Well, first and foremost, the consistent answer is that you want to be outside. You actually want to get outside and enjoy the sunshine and enjoy the scenery. There is endless access to outdoor activities. There's skiing, there's hiking, there's backpacking, there's paddleboarding, there's mountain biking, or you could just be in your little neighborhood and walk a trail. You have the Rocky Mountains right there in your backyard. Even if you live on the eastern side of Denver in the suburbs there, you can get to the mountains in 30 minutes. It's just an energy that you don't get in places where at least 3 to 6 months of the year you're forced or want to be inside. Second, this is a big energy city without that soul-crushing mass. Yes, it's big for people who have lived here for a long time, and yes, it's probably big for small town folks who are just getting used to it. But Denver, to me, and again, a lot of the friends that I talked to about this video, it's the perfect size city. It's the type of city where every neighborhood has its own distinct character and its own distinct vibe. And you have neighborhoods downtown like Highlands, ton of walkability. You can shoot over to South Broadway and walk down all the restaurants and bars there. You can shoot over to Rhino or River North. And if you don't want to do the downtown thing, you don't have to. You can go up to an old town Arvada that has multiple blocks that are quadrued off for pedestrians only. You can get down to downtown Littleton. You can go over to Parker in southeast Denver. All of these different areas where if you want to be downtown and get after it, you can. You can go down there for the museums and concerts and sporting events. Or if you live in the suburbs, there's plenty of things to do there as well. Certainly one of the most important factors to me is I feel confident that I'm raising my daughter in a great place, in a good community where, again, I feel safe. I feel safe going out and about with my daughter, taking her to different places. I'm aware, certainly, of areas that I might not wander, but I feel like 99% of this city is okay to be in and around at any time. We have access to good schools that are easy to find. We're around good people. The communities in all of these different suburbs are warm and welcoming. And it's such a good mixing pot because of all the people that are moving here. Not only do you get to know a lot of the locals, but you're meeting people from all over the country, if not all over the world. I like the fact that an active lifestyle is a thing here, but it's not forced. Like if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. I'm just having a talk the other day with a friend who just mentioned the fact that she is not a big mountain person. She moved here from New York. She had lived in Los Angeles prior to that. Going to the mountains is not something that just strikes her fancy. She will now, as friends want to go, but for the most part, she is a city person. That's what she enjoys. At the same time, I know people who only do the mountains. They're not into the city. They barely go downtown for anything. Maybe it's a sporting event or a very specific concert. Outside of that, they're away from it. So whatever your lifestyle looks like, Denver caters to it. I love the fact that whether it's craft beer or local coffee or food halls or independent restaurants, they are everywhere. And there's always something new opening. No, Denver gets a bad rap, especially from people who already live here, for not having good restaurants. And sure, I do wish the Italian food was better. But for the most part, craft beer, we always talk about that. Yeah, there are breweries everywhere. But it's like everywhere you look, the food situation gets a little better. Now, one of the big challenges that Denver has is that it's apparently crazy expensive to own a restaurant here. So I think that's one of the reasons that our food never quite gets over the hump, but it's constantly being worked on. I also feel though that makes the restaurants competitive. Like they have to bring the best. And I love that about this city, that there's always something new to go and experience and try. I love the fact that you can find peace and quiet and nature and not have to drive 2 hours outside of the city. I don't know about you, I lived in the Bronx, New York for a while, and you had to go a ways before you got that. I love the fact that I can leave my house with my daughter, with my wife, and within 15, 20 minutes, I'm in nature, I'm in the woods, I'm in the quiet. There are certainly areas within the suburbs for that. 10 minutes away. I love how just getting outside of Denver is so quick. As I mentioned earlier, I love the fact that we have all seasons. I love the fact that right now as I'm making this video, we're starting to get into that spring season where most of the days are 70, 75 degrees. Sure, we might get the occasional rain, but it's beautiful out day after day. I love the fact that our summers aren't too hot, winters aren't too cold, and our falls are substantially pretty. And I love the fact, as I mentioned earlier, of community. I love the fact that whether you are moving here by yourself, you're moving here with a couple, you're moving here with a family, you're moving here multi-generational, you're moving here with young kids, old kids, you name it, young professional, older people, you're coming here to retire, there's a community for you. There's people around for you. I look at my neighborhood and how it's changed. I look at how there are all these different people from all these different backgrounds and all these different elements of life, and we bond. Throw out the grill, put out some food, throw out a couple beers and some lemonades. For the kids, it's just an amazing experience. Now, I told you that I would end with a few developments that are happening in downtown Denver. Again, as just an example of the things that are kind of exciting. I wish one of the developments I was going to talk about was a new Broncos stadium because I'm very interested. I think the Denver Broncos will be creating a new stadium at some point, but we don't have that news yet, so that's not part of it. So the first one I'll talk about is the Ball Arena development. So Ball Arena, normally known as the Pepsi Center, it's been Ball Arena for a couple years now. It's where the Denver Nuggets, Colorado Avalanche play, among others, a lot of concerts down there. Currently, there are thousands of acres of parking lots around. So instead of 64 acres of parking lots, we're gonna have 12 million square feet of residential, office, retail, entertainment space. We're gonna have over 1,000 affordable housing units that are planned to be developed in this, and there's going to be a huge focus on pedestrian design connecting downtown to the South Platte River, which brings me to my other exciting piece. So the South Platte River, which runs through Denver, not a big massive river, it's Colorado, we're a high plains desert, but you have connected to this the River Mile project. So currently, where the River Mile project is, for the most part, is Elitch Gardens, our amusement park. And that's getting moved. We're not losing it, it's just getting moved. So they're gonna take Elitch Gardens, and they're gonna take the riverfront area around that, and they're gonna add homes and shops and parks and office space and new green space around that area. And it's designed to be sustainable and walkable and like a new epicenter of the city. And I will tell you, that is one thing that Denver, not really thinking about it, but something we had always missed. You know, you go to certain cities Pittsburgh comes to mind, San Antonio comes to mind. There's even an area I visited recently in Houston, or the suburbs of Houston, where you kind of have that river walk downtown area with shops, things like that. You don't have that currently in Denver. Again, not that we have a ton of water, but even a makeshift canal, we don't have that. This is what the river project, the River Mile project will be. And the last one I have to mention, although they're doing a ton of work to it, it's really just a change in mindset, and that is redevelopments of the 16th Street Mall. So 16th Street Mall is a walking mall in downtown Denver, and it's one of those places that should be very popular. It should be the type of place that whether it's tourists or even people who live here are going down and they're just enjoying a day walking along 16th Street Mall. All sorts of malls, shops, places to eat, just liveliness, things to do. Unfortunately, the city of Denver allowed it to become just a vagrant, homeless, outdoor shelter for a while. I don't mean to sound heartless when I say that, but it got to the point where you walked down 16th Street Mall and it looked terrible. You didn't feel safe. You didn't feel like it was a warm and fuzzy place to walk down. Didn't smell very good. And so to see the city put an emphasis on cleaning it up and certainly redeveloping it and putting money and effort into the 16th Street Mall is very exciting to me. At the end of the day, if you want people to move to your city, you have to present your city in the best light, and I think this is the city making that effort to do so. And then certainly, because we've talked about affordability, some affordability objectives and initiatives, you have projects like the Rose on Colfax and Freshlow in Montbello, or Freshlow Montbello, moving affordable housing and moving housing affordability, I should say, in a good direction. So a lot of positive things happening in Denver. Overall, I hope what you have taken from this video is that there's a lot to enjoy here, that it's a great city, that again, its best days are ahead of it, that the people who live here love getting outside, they love experiencing it, they love the fact that we have all the sporting teams. We have so many concert venues. I didn't even get to Red Rocks. And we have an atmosphere of community that people want to be involved with. Does Denver have flaws? Without question, as does any city long before the population grew, but certainly those added to it. But you have an opportunity to come here and help us make it better. Any questions that pop up for you about Denver, always an opportunity to hit me up with a phone call, with a text, with an email. Know that I am always the person answering those. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everetts. That was Moving to Denver. What is it really like to live in Denver, Colorado? Till I see you next time. Peace.